Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm Daniel Torres. If this is the first time you tune in, you'll want to know that we're the largest podcast in consumer goods and retail in Europe. Our name is slightly misleading because we are called the FMCG Guys, but we don't only do FMCG. We do other categories like fashion retail, consumer electronics, and the case today, skincare, which I'm very excited to chat about with who's accompanying me today here with a big Friday smile. It's no other than Tara Loftis, who's the Global President of Dermatological Skincare at Galderma. Hi, Tara. Good to see you.
Hi. Lovely to meet you, Daniel.
Likewise. We were mentioning before that I'm based in Barcelona. I think our listeners should know that. Where are you based?
So I'm typically based in Zug, Switzerland, but today I'm in London.
Ah, cool. So What is it like to live in Zug, actually? Because a lot of companies are based there, but I think it's a place that we know very little about.
Yeah, it is. It is by far one of the most picturesque villages I've ever seen. It is this unique combination of old world charm. You feel like you're walking through a Disney fairy tale every day. The lake is super, super lovely, great to swim in. And of course, you can't escape the mountain views for sure. It's a pretty small village, honestly, but you're surrounded. You can't shake the fact that you are surrounded by really brilliant people in Zug because, as you said, so many companies, big, successful companies, are there, and innovative companies in particular. So I've only lived in Switzerland for about nearly 2 years now. So I'm still getting to know it, but it's absolutely very, very beautiful. And there's a lot of country pride too. Everyone is so proud of the Swissness as well. And there's something really, really charming and endearing about that too.
And you moved from the US to Zug.
Actually, I had a stopover in Paris for 5 years. So I was at LVMH's Kendo brands for 10 years before. And 5 of those years were in San Francisco, 5 were in Paris. And then I just kept moving to the other side of Europe, apparently.
Well, nice journey, no? San Francisco, great city. Paris, great city. And Zug sounds like it's a lovely little town as well.
It is. And it's only 20 minutes to Zurich by train. So you're not far from the metropolitan aspects of Switzerland.
Yeah. And how would you define your role at Galderma?
So my role at Galderma is really unique. So for those of you that might not be familiar with Galderma, we are the world's leading dermatology pure play company. Depending on who you're talking to, you might hear Galderma referred to categorically as a pharmaceutical company, but we're categorically a dermatology company. And we have 3 key franchises. We have biologics, so our prescription RX team. We have our injectable aesthetics team with Dysport, Sculptra, Restylane, all these incredibly iconic injectable beauty brands. And then I oversee the 3rd franchise, which is Dermatological Skincare, which is Cetaphil, our most iconic brand, and Alastin Skincare, one of the world's top peri-procedural luxury brands that's only available in highly respected doctors' offices. And then we have the 2 really successful Gen Z targeted OTC acne care brands, Benzac and Differin, some of which are still prescription only in some countries, depending on regulation. So my work spans full ownership of the brand, from strategy to innovation to marketing, and full execution from soup to nuts, and profitability as well, of course. So I'm really responsible for charting the the present and the future of those 4 brands. I am by nature an absolute marketing geek, and I'm a marketing-led general leader, I would say. And so everything that I do comes with a lot of inspiration and a lot of passion to do things in a fresh way, in a pioneering way. And it's really fun because our franchise with Cetaphil, Alastin, Benzac, and Differin is really well balanced and very harmonized in the portfolio. So whenever I come up with an idea or someone on my team comes up with an idea, if it's not right for one brand, it's usually right for another. And it's really fantastic. Before I joined Galderma, I was in pure marketing roles.
Well, you also did some things in the middle that I think give you an interesting twist, because I see consumer affairs at Fiji Water, love that. Public relations, media communications. So it's always been like marketing, but like quite external facing as well, no?
I see you've been on my LinkedIn
Well,
page.
my background is in recruitment, right? I don't know if you knew, but my background is in recruitment. So that's what I do. It's just automatic. Without thinking, I go and see what people do.
No, I love to talk about those pieces of my background because I think it's fun to reflect, actually, and you never know who's listening, because I think it gives a bit of inspiration that you can really chart your own path to wherever you want to go. But I graduated from Pepperdine University in Malibu, and I just knew I wanted to go into fashion or beauty. I was laser focused, and I couldn't find a job in fashion or beauty when I graduated. And God knows I tried. But I had an opportunity to work at Fiji Water. And I thought, interesting, while not technically, categorically fashion or beauty, this was, I mean, I don't know if you remember, this was at the height of coolness for Fiji Water.
Oh, really?
And my perception was that this brand had taken water and had made it a must-have accessory. So this is a solid place to cut my teeth in the world of marketing, right? And it was at Fiji Water that I helped take part in big initiatives such as partnerships with celebrities. We had so many different celebrities.
Well, you were working with influencers before they were called influencers, no? In the way that you were working?
Oh, yes. None of today's language is new. For me, it's just a big virtuous circle.
Who were I'm wondering, 2005, 2007, who would have been the big celebrities then? I'm thinking Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie would have been like...
or Paris Hilton, for sure. Lindsay Lohan
Of course.
In the middle of her heyday. Cameron Diaz in particular, Jessica Biel. So there were a handful of celebrities that were constantly being picked up by the celebrity media. So Us Weekly drove sales in 2005, 2006 in a crazy way that doesn't really happen today. No disrespect, I love Us Weekly, but what we started to do was to build partnerships with celebrities that were constantly out and about and being seen. In particular, people like Lindsay or Paris or Cameron Diaz, who would always grab a bottle of Fiji water before they left the gym, before they left the trainer, and when they went into the trainer. And we made sure that they were always carrying a bottle of Fiji water. And it was a win-win. They wanted to be hydrated. We wanted the coverage. And it worked. And as a result, we were in probably 50% of all of the celebrity coverage that ran in press at the time.
Incredible.
So,
and in reality, it's what you're saying, like, and you saw it very well at the time, which is pretty early in your career. Normally, you don't see these things when you're younger, which is like, it's all about creating an aura around the brand, no?
It is. And it's very much about equity and sales. So, we love to ask everyone this question: what's more important? Is it brand building or is it performance? It was one of the first lessons I learned. You do not have to choose. If you are creative enough, you can build your brand and drive sales at the same time through true performance marketing. So that was really incredible. And I was based in the in the corporate communications team. And I had a multifaceted role at Fiji Water. I ultimately had the opportunity to go into beauty at Pierre Fabre, where I was the US PR and marketing manager. And I got to roll up my sleeves and call editors. I was calling the beauty director at Vogue and sending her my handmade press kits back in the day, and really harnessing the power of individual relationships to obtain coverage. I was building personal relationships with celebrity hairstylists in LA. It just with the hopes that they would mention that they were using our products the next time they talked to InStyle. And it was one of the most pivotal eras for me and I was reflecting on that this week actually here, because I had so many meetings. I got to catch up with several people I hadn't seen in a long time here in London. And I was thinking, it's so easy to not make time to build relationships with people and to skip the lunch and to skip the coffee. And it is worth it. It is so important. Like, our world has never been more AI driven or more calculated, and we need to be more human.
I was just recording. I was in London earlier this week as well. And I was recording some podcasts, and we always ask this question, which I'll ask you obviously, of one piece of advice to your younger self. And one of the people said, when everybody zigs, you zag. So in the time of AI and so on, I think that having like these, I was thinking more critical thinking skills, but to your point, these personal skills and personal relations, and knowing how to, not in an interested way, but just in a genuine way, how to develop these, I think will be invaluable.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
and
totally.
then, so you started in Pierre Fabre, and then you were in a few companies, in a couple other companies in California, right? And then you joined LVMH, which I guess was kind of, I don't know if I would say your making, but it's really where you went to like be a global VP, which I guess puts you in another, also gives you the leadership experience and so on.
Very, very much. I mean, I'll high level how I got to that role, where I was ready for that role, because that's also very relevant. So Pierre Fabre moved their offices to Parsippany, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
After I had been there about a year, I made the decision to not relocate at the time. I had an opportunity to work for one of the first athleisure brands at the time, and I thought, okay, let's try this fashion dream. And I ended up not loving it as much, but I thrived at it because the celebrity relationships I had from Fiji Water, candidly, and gym culture was very applicable when I wanted to get ruffle waistband yoga pants in Us Weekly and InStyle, right? So I was there for about 2 years, and it was fun, but I missed beauty. And 2008, 2009 came, and I think so much of general industry took a hit, and that coincided with my desire to return to beauty. And I was approached by Too Faced Cosmetics, which at the time was a $35 million indie brand in Sephora. And they were just laying the groundwork to get big. They had decided they didn't want to be an indie brand. They wanted to be a world leader in beauty. So I spent 4 years at Too Faced, really becoming maybe the world's most passionate. I don't know if I want to say I was ever the most creative, but I was definitely the most dedicated, most passionate marketer at Too Faced. And in 4 years, we grew the brand to about $450 million. And that was without added cash injection. That was just looking at every element of the brand and seeing how it could bloom through the brand founder's vision, and working with the retailers to see what the opportunities were and what the white space was. And I was rolling up my sleeves every day, working 24 hours. And so when I had the opportunity ultimately to go to LVMH and to help cultivate brands like Marc Jacobs Beauty and Ole Henriksen, I couldn't say no. basically. And so I was originally hired to go to help build Marc Jacobs Beauty. And then over time, my remit extended to the other brands.
And moving to Paris as well. Was it a big, because I think that am I right that until you moved to Paris, you'd always been based in California, right?
Yes.
Was it a big culture shock to move to Paris? Also, you're more like in the global team. It's a different reality, no?
I love this conversation. I don't get to talk about this very often, but they're such great memories. So one small tidbit that I skipped over was that in university at Pepperdine, I spent my sophomore year abroad in Lyon, France.
Oh, okay.
So I fell in love with French culture, but I never expected to move back there. I felt like that's the purpose of the year abroad at university.
Been get on that.
Yes. And when I was with my mentor, Sandy Saputo, who was our CMO at Kendo in New York, she was voicing her frustration because we weren't able to find a head of marketing in Paris that understood equal parts American and French culture. And she made a joke, or what I thought was a joke, and she said, "Would you ever move back to Paris?" And I said, like, of course I would love that, but that's not realistic. And she said, why not? I'll move you to Paris. You can keep doing your work here. You can go there for 18 to 24 months and come back here and just keep growing. And I realized she was serious. And the next day after Marc's show, which is why we were in New York, was for the Marc Jacobs show. The next day I was scheduled to go to Paris for work anyway to meet with Sephora. And usually I just, it's a very operational trip, right? But this time I was taking walks everywhere and asking myself, could I live here?
Yeah.
Is this real? Am I seriously considering moving to Paris? And I did. And I went back to San Francisco. I stood outside of Sandy's office when I came back and I said, my answer is yes. I'd love to move to Paris. And the one bit of spoiler alert there is that I fell so in love with Paris and with French culture and the quality of life there is that I didn't return after the 2 scheduled years. And thankfully, and I'll forever be so grateful to LVMH and to Sandy and to Heather Fisher and to Kristen Walcott, the CEO of of Kendo. It was that they allowed me to stay in Paris and they kept adding to my work scope. So I never felt like my trajectory was limited by being in Paris. And I ended up falling in love with a Frenchman. But what's incredible is that the happier I became living in Paris, the more creative and more successful I became in terms of a marketing results, view. So I really learned a lot and I became deeply passionate about coaching the next generation of marketers as well, because that was part of the mission. It was move to Paris. It sounds very Emily in Paris, I know. It was literally, hey, move to Paris, do your best to bring all of the other marketers into your approach to building marketing plans, and then move back. And I didn't move back. And I'm still with the wonderful Frenchman, and I have this incredible circle of friends in Paris. I do live in Switzerland now, but I will forever be deeply, deeply grateful to LVMH and to the years that I had at LVMH, learning how to create hype machines. That's really what I learned at LVMH.
When you say hype machines, is there an example that you can give of that?
Absolutely. I love that. So the mission at LVMH, and I don't want to speak generally on behalf of all the Maisons, but the pressure is to maintain constant relevance and to create a drumbeat of constant relevance. And not that we didn't pay attention to performance marketing and traditional and digital media, because we, of course, we're famous for that, creating great campaigns and putting them out there. But the idea was that we could brand build, create brand equity, and drive sales at the same time and increase market share. But to stay relevant 100% of the time, you cannot be reliant on agencies. You have to hire the right people who are literally obsessed with culture and are constantly seeing what is being engaged with highly on social media, in news, in conversation, and what's emerging, what's not quite a trend but looks like it's about to be a trend, and do we want to take part in it? So for example, I would say, with so I have two great examples. So when we were launching Fenty Skin, Fenty Beauty was so disruptive for us at Kendo. And I was in Paris when we were launching Fenty Skin. And one of the big moments that we wanted was to have a big wow in Dubai. So I was working with my team in Dubai to create a big wow, because if you've been to Dubai, nothing is executed that's small.
No, no. It's a flashy place, let's put it.
It's a flashy place, yes. And originally, the first iteration of the plan was really strong, but it was lacking that je ne sais quoi, essentially, that makes you want to absolutely buy and stop and will make your jaw drop. And so I threw out this idea to the team. I was like, just to be clear, to level set the expectation, I literally want Rihanna's face on the Burj Khalifa. And like that's the level that I want. And one thing that I love about the Middle East teams that I had at the time, like they weren't deterred by this. They were just like, okay, taking notes. And the next week they came back to me and they said, hey, we talked to the Dubai Board of Tourism. If we can get an exclusive clip of Rihanna, they can make it happen. And then we'll do our event on a nearby terrace overlooking the Burj Khalifa. And although this was in Dubai, you can imagine how viral it went when the biggest influencers in the world were there recording Rihanna's face announcing the launch of Fenty Skin.
Which is her own brand, right?
Right. And no matter where you were in the world at that time, you got visibility of this on social media. I think it went pretty viral with the meme of Rihanna's face on the Burj, saying it looks like Rihanna's announcing world domination. And so that was just a fun example of how you can stay relevant, and it worked. And then again at Cetaphil, so a better example of how I took that way of thinking and have applied it to current day is I was maybe 10 days into my job on Cetaphil, and I was building my to-do list, and I got a notification on my phone that the teams had been announced for the Super Bowl. And I thought, oh, that's right, it's that time. We need to have a brainstorm so we can make a viral bet. Because that's what we would do at Kendo. If there's a big moment, you make a viral bet. And it might be something you film with your team and your interns in the office. It doesn't mean a big dollar item. It just means if you're a hype machine, you have to constantly be a part of the conversation and show up where your consumer is. And so we had a brainstorm in 2 days. And one of the team members that joined came with this really compelling pitch around the fact that fathers and daughters were spending a lot of time together for the first time watching football together because daughters were wanting to see Taylor Swift. And so we thought, absolutely, Cetaphil hadn't really shown up in that kind of culturally relevant space. It was a deeply trusted, deeply efficacious brand built with this incredible dermatology heritage. But did you expect to see it in your derm office, but maybe not at the Super Bowl, right? And I knew with every fiber of my being that this was a big idea. And so we filmed it within 48 hours. And again, this is right before the Super Bowl, literally, when most brands have shot it several months out. And it was too late for us to buy media for it. nationally, but we bought one spot for it in Dallas in our US in the background of our US headquarters. And what we didn't anticipate was how viral it went. And I think everyone was sending it to me. My mom messaged it to me and said, Tara, Maria Shriver is posting this saying she's crying. Like this little commercial that you made. And it really it reached into every home in America and touched people's hearts.
Because what was the commercial about?
The commercial was about a father and daughter spending time watching football.
Ah, yeah. So it's really it's literally cultural relevance, right? Because you're kind of replicating what's happening in reality.
Yes. And of course, it's not the standard playbook. I feel like the standard playbook is to hire a big celebrity or to do something that's very straightforward and put the product in the middle of the screen. Our product was present, but it was the background star for sure. And I think, a big takeaway that I had there is don't be afraid to insert your brand in culturally relevant moments, even if you think you don't have the budget or the right to be there necessarily. It's okay to test things. And I think the second big takeaway, maybe the most important takeaway, is that lead with heart. The world needs more soul. We are all obsessed with AI. If I hear the word agentic AI one more this week, just kidding. I'm super fascinated by AI. But truly, we need more heart. We need more soul. And the fact that we received the most impressions and earned media value of any brand in the US that did not have a national television buy showed us that we had a winning playbook, because consumers want to they want to be appealed to, not just with product efficacy, but with heart.
And I think that sometimes I'm sure you're going to say it's a misperception that people are a bit afraid of putting their brand in a culturally relevant event because they feel like it's going to destroy the general narrative of the brand, if you know what I mean. How do you balance being culturally relevant to still respect the identity of the brand and the soul of the brand?
Great question. I think there's a nuanced answer to that. The truth is, I don't follow that mentality whatsoever. I think that we have to be disruptive in my space anyhow. I think in the world of beauty and in skincare, the days are just completely over of there being a handful of brands that you compete with. It is a vicious market scene out there. And so for you to stand out, for you to disrupt, it means you have to push your brand and your brand's image and presence to a place that might make your team a little uncomfortable sometimes. That's what I would say to other leaders. That said, I think the second piece of it, so the first is to say yes to the cultural moment, even if you're uncomfortable. The second is to make sure that you have a creative team and a creative lead that is deeply in love with your brand and respects your brand and cares about how you show up. Because it's not about getting the most clicks or the most likes. It's about making your brand more loved. And so, anyone can come up with an idea that will get people to talk, but you want people to talk in the right way. And so I think making sure your brand codes and cues and the spirit of your brand is respected means that you're safeguarded against that fear, essentially. And we were, for example, we replicated that strategy this year. So for the second year in a row on Cetaphil, we activated a viral bet around the Super Bowl. And we approached it with the same way, but this year we also cast the world's most followed dermatologist, Dr. Munib Shah. And for that same second reason that I gave you before, the importance of being true to your brand cannot be underscored enough. And making sure that your brand presence and your differentiation is there. We are a brand that is built on dermatology science. So even if it's not super overt and you have to look a little, Dr. Shah is in that is in that commercial. And he was a great sport.
Yeah. And what's actually about dermatology or skincare? Is there something that for you, because I can see that you're somebody that really like cares about the product, right? You're not only like looking to wait and get results. I think you care about like what you're actually selling. But is there anything about like the category that you particularly like?
Absolutely. So I touched on this earlier, I think, or maybe I didn't. It's one of the things that is a critical reason for why I went back into beauty after being in fashion. And it's the fact that beauty's for everyone. And although fashion is making strides to be there for everyone, it's just not. And when you work in-house at a fashion brand, it's very rarely a welcoming place for all. Beauty has this otherworldly potential to increase people's self-esteem and confidence. And beauty is an emotional journey, and skin more than anything, because while you can cover imperfections with your skin with makeup, if you can make your skin look as good as possible, you're going to be the most true version of yourself and the most authentic, confident version of yourself that you can be. And I think that can't be underscored enough. The fact that we have the ability to truly improve quality of life and make people stand up a little straighter and speak a little bit more confidently. Because when you don't feel good about your skin, for those in the world that have not dealt with skin problems or skin insecurities, we've probably known someone that has. And you can't imagine how difficult it is, genuinely. And so if we can make people's skin look as good as people feel on the inside, then I feel like we've made a significant impact. So for me, it's a very personal conviction and motivation to make the world a better place. And what's incredible at Galderma is that we're armed with the science that so many brands do not have. And no disrespect to any other brand. I have tremendous respect for all brand founders that have the boldness to create a brand. What's been beyond incredible about being at Galderma is, one, our CEO is a physician. So while he appreciates great branding, he is a physician first, and he cares deeply about the consumer and their state of being first. And then we are equipped with medical affairs teams and in-house scientists and in-house physicians. It's incredible. So I'm no longer liaising with a lab. Again, no disrespect to labs. They're super brilliant, but I'm able to sit next to a scientist as we craft a narrative and a strategy about a product that's coming out. And so I feel like it's beyond incredible what we've been able to do. Cetaphil is a 76-year-old brand. We have nearly 1,200 clinical studies on the brand that have been executed. So I'm able to speak to you very boldly and very confidently about the efficaciousness, about Cetaphil in particular, and Alastin, Differin, and Benzac, because I see the science. And I see the passion that goes into it. And I've been in beauty for over 20 years, almost 25 years now. And it's really special what we're able to do at Galderma.
Yeah, no, and I think that it's that of Galderma. It's really like, and skincare has become like so big, no, and so many players in it. And as you said, there's a lot of disruptive new brands. But I think that having like that differentiator, that you have that medical backup, is a great thing to kind of build your brand upon as well, no?
Absolutely. And also just the knowing that the hyaluronic acid that goes into Cetaphil's, hydrating creams is the same type of hyaluronic that is going into our injectable aesthetics. And the same scientists that are working on our biologic products are working on our anti-aging products and our skin health products. And so I feel like we're really set up for success with the way that the dermatology world is evolving, which is the fact that the consumer is demanding more transparency and more results.
Speaking of the consumer, by the way, a big big topic out there, which they say is the oil of the 21st century is data. How do you like work around data? Like, because there's the extremes of like basing it all on data and then basing it all on gut feel. So
I love this. So I recently watched a video a couple of days ago of Anna Wintour, and she was talking about the importance of following her gut. And it's rare to hear leaders talk about the importance of gut because it sounds so much more solid when we can talk about how we're data first. But I saved that video and I sent it to my entire team. And I was like, let's not forget that we need to lead with gut and we need to lead with our intuition. So that said, I'm an intuition first marketer. I'm a gut first marketer, 5,000%. What we do is equal parts art and science. And that said, we are a science first company at the same time. And Cetaphil is a fast growing brand that is well over $1 billion now. And we have because our brand is so big, we're highly incentivized, I would say, to gut check with data and make sure we're moving in the right direction and make sure that that consumers are going to likely respond well to our ideas. So typically what we do is we lead with gut and then we work with our agencies and we work with data analytics firms to conduct real world focus studies and make sure that consumers are responding well to the direction we're moving in. For example, at the end of every year now, we conduct a global shopper study, for example, and we survey 12,000 Cetaphil shoppers from around the world. We get their opinion. How are you responding to our brand? How do we look? Are we cool? Do you want to buy us? Do you not? Where would you like to see us that you haven't? And what will absolutely make you buy our product? And what are we not doing well as well? And it's really a fruitful exercise to hold a mirror up to yourself. Because at the end of the day, why not trust the consumer to tell you? But it's also interesting. So I met with many talented agencies this week that specialize in data in London this week. And I think it's important that we all stay very, very fresh in terms of what's available to us right now. And generative AI and predictive AI in particular are in the beginning stages of being able to predict what focus groups will tell you, as a matter of fact, in terms of data. And I don't think it's there yet. I don't think it's at the level that will replace today. Who knows where it's headed, right? But I love nothing more than to really latch on to a focus group study of 12,000 people globally. And then I have that data to stand on as well.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting how you're gut first, data second. But I think that sometimes we're seeing people in the day-to-day now that instead of doing a bit of brainstorming and then validating it, they start going on ChatGPT directly. And that kind of eliminates that kind of like intuition and gut that you may have, no? Also, there's another thing which I think is interesting, that data can give us a lot of knowledge and a lot of patterns, but it can't necessarily tell us the future either.
Nope.
So
Nope, it can't. And one of my favorite questions to ask that the tech companies that have these abilities don't like to answer is, that's awesome that you can evaluate who is our consumer today in every aspect of their lives, right? Because that's super valuable. But what, as it relates to Cetaphil, I keep referencing Cetaphil. It's the easiest one and with the deepest roots to reference. When you're 76 years old, we can't keep our strategy the same. And we don't talk about this enough as marketers. I believe that to keep growing when you're at the top of your game as a brand, you have to evolve your brand probably every 3 years. Not in a big way, but in small ways. And our marketing strategies need to be constantly ever evolving. And so my question that I ask a lot of platforms that are developing these incredible generative predictive AI abilities is, okay, but what happens if I no longer want this consumer to be my focus consumer? What if I want our consumer to begin to move to consumer B, essentially? And candidly, a lot, I think I speak for most of the beauty marketers and leaders in the world when I say we have to be fascinated by Gen Alpha. Gen Beta is going to start to be born next year, which is wild. So if we're not obsessed with qualifying and quantifying what's going to make Gen Alpha tick, we're already late. So, it's my ultimate message is to ask the right questions, right? But it still comes from gut. And I love AI, but I think ultimately AI might be the future, but it's not really what the end all be all is, if that makes sense. It's more so about how we use it. So it's more like, AI is the next evolution, but who's going to win moving forward? It's going to be about using prompting as a new language. The art is going to be in the prompt ultimately, and it's really very much about the next isn't about the tool, it's about the taste and the gut behind who's activating the AI. And it's blending our intelligence and our intuition, our data and our discernment, our technology and our soul all at once.
Do you have a way, how do you assess, when you're interviewing somebody for your team to join your team, how do you assess that?
Ooh. Well, two things. I have two rules. I only hire people that are very smart and very kind. And I'm not willing to break either one of those. And I happen to be a good judge of intellect and integrity and character there. But I also give a lot of rapid fire questions to them in the interview. I used to be more reliant upon giving them a homework assignment. And now with the development of ChatGPT, my interviews have become a little bit more rapid fire. I also have a secret question that I ask in interviews that one of my mentors asked me when I was 25 interviewing at Too Faced, and I think it tells you so much about people that I've continued this, which is what came first, sales or marketing? That's the first question. And the second is, would you rather be right or would you rather win? And you could imagine my 25-year-old self interviewing at Too Faced. I didn't know what I was just being hit with question-wise. I answered very honestly, but that second question, would you rather win or would you rather be right, tells me everything I need to know about someone. Because if you care more about being right, you're going to be argumentative. You might not be
a team player.
You might not be a team player. You might not be as creative and passionate about being original with your ideas. But if you want to win, it means you want to cross the finish line, make the sale, be a part of a team. And it means that it tells me that you're going to always be thinking of ideas because you're so passionate about winning.
Yeah. And you're not stuck in doing things one way, and you're open to finding alternatives to your original thinking.
Exactly. And I think she asked me that question in 2008, 2009, and it's continued on. So if any marketers are listening or hiring managers,
giving away your secret,
free. Oh, that's not a secret. Well, maybe it was because I've never talked about it, but please use it. I highly recommend it. It weeds out the people that maybe aren't team players.
How is that also, you mentioned, the importance of people being smart and being kind that you hire? What about do you have certain leadership principles as well when you lead a team to lead them, inspire them, get the most out of them?
Yes. So I believe soul first. Genuinely, I care about every person that reports to me on a human level first. and I want to make sure that they are taking care of themselves. First of all, I've already hired these people, right? So I know how creative they are. I know how passionate they are. I know how much conviction they have to win. So once I've hired someone and they're up and running and working, I try really hard to keep my pulse on their personal balance and making sure that they're taking their PTO, that they're taking time with their family and their friends. So I lead with taking care of their soul first, if that makes sense. That's something we don't talk about enough. And then the second is integrity. So no matter what, I will always be honest. And I was always like that, but after living in France, I became even more direct and transparent, I suppose. And I think, what's awesome about it, I didn't always have leaders that led with that kind of transparency and directness. And it does two things. It takes the pressure off everyone because it's not just about giving tough feedback. It's also about being honest when you haven't completed something or when we're late for something. And it breeds a culture of honesty and of levity at the same time. And so I never want anyone on my team to forget a deadline and hide it from me. Or be worried that I'm going to punish them for that. We are all human. We are all doing far too much and balls will get dropped. And so one, they already know that I care about them as a human first.
And
So
we all know what it's like to be in a cult. Well, we all know. I think we've all been in a situation with this certain like spirals of silence and like that level of like for maybe good intentions of not having confrontation or not saying bad things, but then like you create a whole spiral of silence, which is pretty unbearable, basically.
yeah, and I've been, at this point in my career, I've reported to all different kinds of leaders, and some of which were fear-based. And the best leaders were safety-based. And, Sandy Saputo, who I referenced earlier, who moved me to Paris, is still my mentor. I talk to her regularly. And one of the best things she ever did for me at Kendo was pull me aside and say, hey, you need to take some time for yourself. I'm watching you. She was like, you've never been more creative. You've never been more successful. You're churning out ideas nonstop, but this will reach a point where you will burn out. And so you need to take time. And she said, I want you to come into my office once a quarter and tell me where you're going to go on a vacation. And she said, I'm booking the time with you. I'm going to book the week that you're going to go. She was like, you can challenge it if you want. But I would, every quarter, I took a week off. And it was a mandate from my boss.
Yeah.
But I mean, granted, this was a time where I wasn't taking any PTO whatsoever.
Were you shocked? Were you shocked that she told you that?
I was so shocked, but my heart needed it. At the same time, I was going nonstop. I was over multiple brands. I was working closely with Mark Jacobs and his team. I was ready for a call at any point in the 24 hours of the day, like concerned about an asset or concerned about sales performance at Sephora or Neiman Marcus. And I think I put all my passion into my job. And it was after a big event in LA that was a huge success. And she was just like, I want to preserve the magic that you have. She was like, it's not that I'm like as concerned as I sound. She said, I just want you to preserve your magic. I want you to take care of yourself. And I started on this routine where I would take a trip by myself. I was single at the time, and it's totally fine. It was just like a very magical series of memories where I would take solo trips once a quarter. And I would rest, I would recharge. And that came from my boss. And my thought was, this woman really cares about me, genuinely. And of course, when she approached me, my response was, I can't do that. I can't take time off. We can't take time off. Are you joking? And she said, but you have to. She's like, just trust me. There might not ever be a good time for you to take PTO, but you have to. It's going to be fine. And it was. And yeah. And so, when I ultimately moved to Paris, I was reporting to this incredible mentor that I knew cared about me and cared about the business at the same time, and that those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. And it's knowing where you stand, right? It's like knowing if you're doing your job well, but if you're not as well, right? I mean, nobody likes to hear bad feedback, but it's quickly, I'm curious to know, like, how do you feel like the whole COVID remote hybrid working situation has affected the workforce? Also, I think there's a bit a sensation that like the people that are younger are less engaged in jobs. I mean, clearly you're very engaged with your jobs, and I'm as well, because also when I came into the workforce, I would just gone out of the financial crisis and so on. So I was like, I better be very good at my job or I'll get fired and not find another job, right? But yeah, what you're reading about like this post-COVID world, also polarization, you name people, a lot of people being lonely as well.
Very spicy question, Daniel. I respect everyone's answers to this, and my answer is probably very different from many leaders. That said, I care most about quality of work and excellence of work. And for that reason, I believe that one of the silver linings that came from COVID was that we were able to streamline and optimize the ability to work remote from wherever we are. And as long as I'm getting the work done from my team and that it's an extremely high quality, that's all that matters to me, to be honest with you. And I don't want someone coming into an office if it's not going to increase their quality of work or their personal happiness. That might be a bold statement, but again, I care first about the quality of work. And if you're capable of working from home and delivering your best ever work, then more power to you. Because at the end of the day, I'm motivated to drive sales and performance, and we're not going to do that if it's not best in class work. The one caveat there is I do believe that human connection and team building is important. And so for those team members that I have that work remote, I just ask that we do get some FaceTime. Whether it's quarterly or it's even less frequent. I try to bring my team together as much as possible. Today I have team members that are I have many team members in Barcelona and also in the French part of Switzerland in particular, and in other locations around the world. But we do our best to come together, especially when we're brainstorming or building a marketing or a launch plan. There's something about the magic when you're with a team and you're brainstorming together and you're bringing together your best ideas. The same magic doesn't always happen remote. We can do it, but I'm a really big fan of brainstorming IRL. But day to day, if it really helps increase people's quality of lives, if they're able to spend less time in traffic, more time with their children after work or on their lunch break, who am I to say that that's the wrong thing?
Totally. And we're all for bold opinions here, right? That's what we're here for. Tara, I said it before. We have this question that we ask all our guests on the show. It's a very simple but very complicated question at the same time, which is, if you went back to the beginning of your career and you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think it's pretty clear to me, which is to not chase perfection, to chase presence. And the best ideas and the best relationships happen when you stop trying to impress and start showing up as yourself. I've always been a serious perfectionist. And at times it's cultivated a lot of anxiety within myself. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm an eldest daughter and a Capricorn. So I've got all of nature on my side to be a serious perfectionist. But it wasn't until I started to realize that showing up more authentically only creates more trust and endears more people to you. And then more ideas come that are even better. So my advice is to not chase the perfection, to pursue it, but don't chase it.
which is, to pursue it, probably the word would be excellence, no? For example, I think excellence is a much better word than perfection. Perfection means that like there's nothing everything has to be 10, and that unless you're like a doctor saving somebody's life, and even then you don't need to get a 10 either.
Absolutely. And, I'm saying my advice to my younger self would be don't chase perfection. But the truth is, I wasn't just chasing perfection. I was obsessed with perfection. And so many sleepless nights. It's really, and now at this point in my career, it's really about getting the idea right. And it's better done than perfect. Just make sure you get the idea right.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm leaving this call with a lot of takeaways, I have to say. I kind of realized, but it was a good reminder that you're the leading derma pure play at Galderma. And it's incredible, like the biologics, injectable, and derma skincare, 3 different business units. But I like the fact that you mentioned that they have like this common, like medically proven background. I mean, I think you said Cetaphil, 76 years, 1,200 clinical studies, which is quite a lot. It's incredible sometimes also how like small decisions can have an impact on our lives. And I think the fact that you moved to Paris, which you, by the sounds of it, you could have perfectly decided not to, really changed your life. And sometimes it's like a balancing act, no? And it's also like, if you don't risk, it's difficult to like really maximize potential. I mean, for me, the thing about cultural relevance and your viral bits, so it's an incredible one. And honestly, for anyone that's listening in marketing, I think they should learn a few lessons from there. And leading from the gut, you said a gut first marketer, then backing things up with some data. But and finally, like the leadership part, to really like genuinely care about people and being transparent. Great takeaways as well.
Thank you. And, and ultimately, as it relates to marketing advice for today, it's say yes to the risk. And not every swing that you're going to take is going to be a win and a huge success. But keep swinging, because the more you swing, the more successes you will receive.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from Dwyer Partners SL, doing business as the FMCG guys, or the individual author, host, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Dwyer Partners SL. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Dwyer Partners SL expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we presented in this podcast.